All right, welcome to another episode of Investing with Quito. I've got my co-host here, Jeremy. Jeremy, how are
Hey,
you today?
I'm great, man. I'm great. School's about to start, whole new semester. Feel like a fresh start in the fall. So I love that. And it's good. Summer's almost over, which is good and bad, but
Right.
fresh start in the fall. I love it.
Yeah, I know summer's been busy for you, with different activities
Yeah.
with the family and stuff like that. So,
I graduated this summer too, so that's also a big
right.
thing. So
That's
I have a big master's degree. So
nice, nice. I know the commitment you made. I just want to acknowledge you. I was watching you juggle all these things, with school, with work, with business, and you made it. So congratulations. And now you're charted a new path. So
thanks. Yeah, super excited. So it's a good thing.
yeah. Well, let's jump on it today and just kind of go over what you're working on and maybe work on some questions about negotiating things like that. We can definitely touch those topics and just be able to provide value for our audience.
Yeah. Well, if no one knows, Keto is known around Billings as like the negotiating king, right? Everyone's like amazed at how many deals he got. Like, you got that deal for this price and for those terms. Like, how did you pull that off? So, like, Keto, you are the guy for negotiating, as far as I know, right? In town. And so people knowing that, like, if you have questions negotiating, he's the guy that asks, like, you're the guy that people talk to. So when you think about negotiating, what are some principles, tactics, things you've studied that have been helpful for that conversation with like a seller or a buyer?
No, a lot of things like, when it's a negotiation, a lot of people think it's got to be hard, right? That you got to go in hard. But my approach has always been like finding out what the other party wants, right? It may sound simple, right? Just find out what they want and figure out how you can get them what they want and still get what you want, right?
Hmm.
Um, so So kind of I guess, let's kind of use an example, maybe a live example that you're working on, and maybe we can kind of talk it over and I could interject some of the strategies that I would use to to get to the solution, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. So here's a live example for everyone. It's looking at a business to acquire, and the seller's selling because she wants to be the owner and operator of her franchise that she started, and so she's selling her individual business so she can work on that franchise business and the other franchises. And it's a good business. She's doing well. Um, Her seller discretionary earnings are right around $200,000 a year. Um, but she's asking $1 million for her business. That's the asking price.
Mhm.
And she's willing to do terms and that kind of stuff. And we have a basic offer of like going into it, get an LOI purchase, more due diligence. But after reviewing it with some other people, they're like, hey, that's way too much for a business. That's like 5x of what it should be. When usually a business like this is 2x at most three. So it's like you're overpaying for $1 million and really it's worth about 600 or less.
Mhm.
So trying to now in the conversation with the seller, we both have a relationship. We like each other. She really is starting to trust me. He's like, hey, you can take over this business and scale it and do well. I would love to work with you because you'd be a continuing partner with me. And so how would you start a conversation like that? It's like, hey, I know we said this offers for this, but really your business is only worth this.
Mhm.
What could we do?
Right. I mean, first, for me, I would go in there and really kind of what's the pain that she's feeling, right? Like if she doesn't sell her business, obviously she wants to sell it. That's what's on the market. If she doesn't sell, what's her other options and what's the pain is she feeling that's wanting her to? Because people either move, for pleasure or for pain, right? One of those.
Hmm.
And so, what pain is she currently feeling right now?
I think it would be actually pleasure. She's told me, right, you always take what people say with a grain of salt. I'm just taking on her word. She says she's always wanted to be a business coach. So
Okay.
franchising and being the franchise owner and operator and helping other franchises actually is what she's always wanted to do. And cleaning was just one to get there. So for her, it's like a pleasure of going into a different role as the owner of the franchise while letting someone else run the day-to-day operations of the business. So for her, she's actually pretty hands off. right now. So her pain is not like, oh, I'm not making my clients, or we're losing clients, or we're losing money. It's like, I just really want to do something else.
So sounds like she wants to move towards something, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And another way to look at it, like if she doesn't sell her business, right,
Hmm.
would this not selling her business prevent her from moving into her next phase, moving towards that pleasure?
Yeah, I definitely could. I think it would be harder for her. Possibly. I think right now, she says she works about 5 hours a week on the
Hmm.
actual business and the other time on the franchise stuff. So I think it would hinder the franchise operations.
Hmm. Okay. And how does she come up with the numbers? Like, because you said most business is 2x to maybe 3x, right? She wanted 5x. How did she come up with her number? And then these are the things that these are in the background first, right? Before I start really getting to like negotiate. I want to, you know, you as the negotiator understand what is going on, how she arrived to that number, and what's her thinking behind that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's because she's doing $1 million in revenue, then therefore she can sell it for $1 million. And to her credit, she's really built it up where she's the owner investor, not the operator. So she's not doing the day-to-day stuff. She has managers in place. She has a sales team. She has a lead generation team. She has managers of her cleaners, things like that. So she's done a really good job in that. And I think that's where she is like built this up where everywhere else can just be, you can buy a cleaning business and you have to clean and manage everyone, but hers is operated independently,
Right. So it sounds like
right?
she built a system where it'd be pretty much kind of turnkey for you to go, or another buyer to go in there, basically get up and running and start generating about $1 million in gross sales.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
she's thinking in her mind, okay, I want $1 million.
Hmm. Yeah. And so this is technically on market, but not with a broker. So no brokers like looked at it with her. I think maybe her lawyer has or her accountant and
Mhm.
given her those numbers. So it's also like maybe her accountant said this is what it's worth, or this is what she came up with, or
Right.
things like that.
And how long has she been trying to sell the business before you even noticed it online?
I think since March.
Since March.
Yeah. And so she's also said she's not in a big hurry to close, right? We had an original close date of like October, but she's like, I'm even willing to like move it to the end of the year to like have the books be clear and like fresh.
Mhm.
So there's that
Okay,
option as well. Yeah.
so it's been about five months, right?
Hmm.
That 5 months, was there other prospective buyers looking at the business?
Yeah, I think so. But she says more like institutional buyers, not an actual person, more like private equity or bigger corps.
Okay, and obviously they passed on it, right? That's why
Or
you
she didn't sell to them.
she didn't sell to
Yeah,
them, right?
she said no. Yeah.
You said no. Okay, for whatever reason, whether it might be
Hmm.
seeing terms, whatever. All right.
Terms, or she didn't like them, or like I said before, kind of with someone's business, it's like their baby they built from, hey, it's just me operating this business to like now I'm scaled it 6 years later. I've
Mhm.
grown. I've gone to workshops. I'm now franchising this. Like it's my baby, right? Like I don't want someone to come in and, especially if she's a franchise owner over these other franchises, she doesn't want institutional money coming in and like have no contact, relationship, team building with her franchisees,
Mhm.
right?
Okay, cool, awesome. So now that you've kind of understand you know, the back history, because that's what it's the first thing I do is when I'm negotiating, I like to understand, okay, what's the situation, how long it's been on the market, how many prospects I've looked prior to me seeing the property, just so I can understand what's going on, right?
Hmm.
Um, Now in terms of price, so what is it that you want to negotiate on? You want to negotiate on the price or the terms? What are you looking for you?
Well, talking to some other guys like Jake from Seattle, who owns cleaning businesses, and his partner, they have a system where like they're actually looking for between 100 to 200% cash on cash return on their buy. And every time they look at a business, they want their cash flow to be at least twice as much as their debt service.
Mhm.
So those are kind of the two things I'm looking for either the right terms, which equal a better debt service, which then my cash flow is twice that. So even if the business goes to half, I'm
Mhm.
still good. And also the cash on cash return being at least 100%, if not 200%. So between that range. So that's a big range, but
Mhm.
still, that'd be a good number. This baseline is 100% cash on cash return
Okay,
at the very
100%.
minimum.
Okay. So with the way it is now, right? What's the return would you be getting the way it sits now?
Um, Let me look. I can calculate that really quick. Let me see if I
Okay.
can get it. Um, I'll maybe see if I can pull it up, but I think right around like maybe 80% cash on cash return and about 30% cash flow
Mhm.
or
Okay.
like margins for debt service to cash flow.
Right. And then the thing too, like when you're negotiating, the thing to understand is like you yourself, you gotta have a what I call like a criteria, right? Like these are the
Hmm.
criteria that I'm looking for, okay? And if I negotiate, can I get to where I'm hitting my criteria and be able to fulfill on what the seller wants?
Hmm.
So with currently at 80% cash on cash, is that a criteria that you would be okay with?
Probably not. Yeah, I want to do at least if these guys are doing something like that. Like I'd want at least the 100%, like 100% cash on cash return, and then the cash flow would be 50%
Okay.
above that. So like I'd like to do that. So right now, if we have the current terms, say it's $1 million with 150 down at 84 months at 4%. So my cash on cash return is only 40% at
Okay.
that deal. And my monthly cash flow is $5,000 a month, but my debt service is 11,000,
Mhm.
right? So it's a
Right.
lot higher. So if I move it down to 600 with the same terms, I get 84% cash on cash return and right around 40% cash flow to debt service
Mhm.
above, right?
Right.
So now it's like trying to negotiate the numbers of like kind of what you're saying, like what's the seller want most, right? So
Mhm.
asking those questions of do you want more money up front or do you want more money over time or do you want the right person in the right seat? Those kind of questions I think be helpful. But what
Mhm.
kind of questions do you ask? Like if you're asking those kind of questions, like trying to figure out what they want most, what are
Mhm.
some good questions you ask or get to the
Well,
bottom of that?
so for first of all, I would once I go back, so now before we get to that question,
Hmm.
let's figure out where you would need to be to make it work for you. So you kind of want to start with that in the back of your mind. Like, okay,
Hmm. Okay.
so what would those numbers what would those numbers look like? So what is it to get to your 100% cash on cash and 50%? Is it's 50%, right? On the
Hmm.
debt service.
Yeah. So as an example, maybe to get there in one way would be a $600 purchase price,
Okay.
$100,000 down, $100,000 down, which is over 10%. And
Hmm.
then if you do the same terms of 84 months at 0%, then you're at 128% cash on cash return.
Hmm.
And your debt service is roughly about 50%.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, so this is something when you kind of go in, because what's important is like obviously, as you know, when you're evaluating a property or a business, like I do the same thing. I'm looking at a property. I make sure that it hits my criteria. Like, okay, can I, what those numbers need to be in order for me to hit my criteria? So I kind of start with that in the back of my mind. Like, okay, because then I know because if you don't have a baseline for your business, right, and you're just buying stuff left and right, it will if it doesn't fit your criteria, then it may be best to just wait. Let's move on to the next opportunity, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because you don't want to force a deal, right? If you can't force a deal, right? So it's important to stick to your criteria. It's important. Stick to your criteria. And if it doesn't fit that criteria, fine, move on to the next opportunity that can hit this criteria. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I've known in my experience, if I go away from what I would normally do um, for my criteria, if I go off of my let's just call it like my buy box, right? If I go out of my
Mm-hmm.
buy box and I veer off of it, you know, oftentimes it ends up, biting me, in a kicking me in the butt because
Mm-hmm.
I went away from my criteria. So that's the thing is like as much as you want it, right? Because we get like I was thinking like investing shouldn't be emotional. It's just like you look at the numbers, and if it works, great. If not, let's find another opportunity that can get those numbers. Okay. So number
Mm-hmm.
one, stay in your buy box. You have a buy box, stay within the buy box. Okay. So when you're negotiating, you want to you want to get to your buy box. And if it doesn't out, then you know what? Thank you. We're going to move on to another opportunity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So number
Mm-hmm.
one, like have your have your end goal in mind. And then now let's go now we work on the seller. It's like, okay, what can we do with the seller so we can get to 600K with 600K purchase price, 800K, with $100,000 down in order to get there, right? Or, or to work with price with the lower down payment or whatever. We can move different levers and still be able to get to the same numbers. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your question is what would we ask the seller, right? In regards to the price, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, when you spoke to her, was she seemingly stuck on price? Or was that like, I gotta have my $1 million price?
That's a good question. I haven't really dug down deep into it. She definitely wanted more upfront than she wanted more upfront and willing to code to my interest rate, but wanted shorter terms, shorter months.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems that'd be a good question to ask her, right? It's like, what's more important, price or terms or time?
Mm-hmm.
Are those kind of the three factors, price, terms, and time?
Right. And another thing too, um, and what I'm basically going to give you is kind of like the structure, right? You know, um, now that you know her motivation, like, hey, I want to do more business coaching, more business consulting, that aspect, right? One of the questions I would ask, like, oh, so, how long have you been wanting to do, business coaching, right? And what got you interested in getting the business coaching? And here's why I start to ask these questions is I want her to start thinking about her dream, right? It's called future pacing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to start to have them see the end result because you're going to help them get there, right? Oh, how long have you been wanting to do this? What got you interested? Like, oh, I've been doing this. I like doing this. I think they're great, you know. Um, you know, what would life be like if you got to do this? Tell me a day in life. So you
Mm-hmm.
start to get them to dream. You start to get them to think about, wow, this this is the life I want. Get them excited about the possibility about creating that life, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, or just having that life that they want. Okay. So I'm getting them excited about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even as like if I'm talking to you, it's like, what would it be like, Jeremy, for you to own this cleaning business, right? How long have you
Yeah.
been wanting to own this business? What got you interested in doing this? And what would it do for you to have this cleaning business? right? So you can see those questions start kind of get you excited. It's like, oh wow, I can
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and you like so whatever that is for them as it's doing for you, they're going to get excited about it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you can ask them, in the past, what has stopped you from doing that? And then they might say, well, gosh, I, I'm doing this. I'm taking time away from this because I know sounds like she's only spends about 5 hours a day on the business, right? What is she doing with the other? What's she doing with the rest of those hours?
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
is preventing her from doing what she wants to do. Because if someone's only spending 5 hours a day doing something, I mean, they've got, if you work 12-hour days, you got, 7 more hours to do stuff. What is she doing with those 7 hours that's preventing her from doing the coaching that she wants to do, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of want to underline, get to understand that aspect of it, okay? And then from there, obviously, you get excited, start to have her paint that picture. And then now, the thing is, then I start to come back about how selling this would help her get to that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and that's why I asked, like, well, if you don't end up selling this, what are you going to do? Oh, I'll just continue to run a business. I'll just continue to run it. Okay, well, you're going to continue to run this, but you said you wanted to do this. How much longer do you want to put this on the table, right? You've been dreaming about this for the last 10 years or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
You want to wait another 5, 10 years to fulfill this dream of yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the
Mm-hmm.
pleasure she wants, you got to create that. And then you start, this is where kind of the pain come in because now by not being able to sell the business, right, it's going to prevent her. There's going to be that pain and may prevent her from moving to her pleasure of wanting to be a business coach. That
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so it's almost like a psychology. I mean, you're almost like, just asking them, just getting them the dream. And then, because some people think negotiating is all about getting in the numbers, getting to I mean, you'll eventually get there. But before we get there, let's get them to paint a picture to have something to move towards. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
that's more like it's more a strategy wise, right? Like kind of like a framework of when I'm negotiating, try to get to understand what they want to move to and how I can. This is how I see like, you know, if you can help other people get what they want, you will eventually get what you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this may seem like simple. Gosh, like I thought you're gonna throw all these fancy techniques. Like, no, it's pretty it doesn't have to be that difficult, right? Understanding what they want now, your job is how can you help them get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that $100,000 down or whatever she wants down, what is that going to do for her, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what is that 100,000 or whatever the down payment? What is that going to represent for her?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so when you go in terms of pricing, right? I mean, obviously, a lot of times, for the most part, the first number is not always the number that they're going to settle with. She may say, oh, $1 million, but honestly, they may take 800,000 or
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not, she's just not, that $1 million is not going to be like hard for the most part. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what you do, but in general, just like you're selling a house, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
that the number you put there, you'll settle for less, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
the same thing that the seller is thinking. Because I do the same thing, y'all do the same thing. We put a number out there, we get it great. If not, we know we'll take less. It's just human nature, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
$1 million, I'm sure it could be, reduced. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given how that's reduced is how can you still just say she gets down to 800,000? say, hey, look, I'll take it 800,000. Now you got to work with the down payment, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, so say she wants an X amount of down payment, and you think, man, that's a lot more. But then if you work out your numbers, and you still hit your numbers with the down payment, right? So whatever number she gives is like, how can you work it so where it can still work out as well, right?
Hmm.
So she wants 800,000. Okay, she wants 800,000. That would be 4x the
Right.
the thing, which is, and you say usually 2 to 3x, right?
Usually, yeah.
And
Hmm.
then sometimes too is being educated can help too, right? Because I'm in the process of looking at commercial lease. I know nothing about commercial lease right now,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but I'm trying to learn in general how much for square footage people are leasing space for. Because there's a property I'm looking at, and I want to understand. Okay, is she asking too much for it, or is she asking, is this normal? So I need to know for myself, right?
Hmm.
And and for you, you might want to also have opportunity to educate her as well.
Hmm.
It's like, I know you want, you know, like $1 million, based on, I've bought in business before because you bought in business before. And
Hmm.
all the other research that I've done, most businesses that are going on the market right now is currently selling for maybe 2 to 3x, the income.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
here's how, like, you wanting 5x. So sometimes it's important to help educate them because they may not realize that they're asking way too much for their property, what would be considered standard. That makes sense.
Hmm.
That's why, like, when
Hmm.
before you sell a house, you talk with the realtor. They go and they do an analysis. They sit down. They say, okay, based on your home, the square footage, location, most homes are selling for an X amount, right? And then,
Hmm.
and in your mind, you're thinking, man, I wanted, you know, $75,000 more. Then you realize maybe that's not realistic for me. That makes
Hmm.
sense. And so
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
and that's something that you can do too, is pull up other cleaning businesses that is in similar area, right? And
Hmm.
then look at their prices, look at the income, so you can see this is like industry standard is 2 to 3x, right? So then
Hmm.
maybe that will, I know that would definitely help her bring it down because if if that's the standard, how many buyers is going to go and pay 5x that,
Yeah, not many. Yeah.
right? So, and that's the same framework is when you're going in there, you know, understanding and help educating that she may not realize that she's doing 5x what the standard industry is going for.
Hmm. Hmm.
I know she knows the cleaning business, she understands that, and she knows that if she charges for her service, right, 3 times than what other people are charging her, she knows that she's not going to be able to sell her services to other people who need that service because she's overpriced herself.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's the same thing when it comes to business, is whatever the standard is, that that's your expertise. You know business more than I do, but whatever the standards, that should be where she needs to be. And it might just be, you might just need to kind of sit down, kind of show her, hey, look, I've been doing some research. This is what typically, I know you want this much, but based on this is what typically, you know, they're going for. And
Hmm.
this is
Hmm.
after you get her excited about,
Yeah.
you know, the possibility for starting her new career, her new venture. And because I know she's still going to have a piece of the business as well once she moves,
Yep.
so, but that's what you would do, because in this way you can help her see that, and then because she wants to franchise it to other parts, maybe that's something that you can help her with as well. Once you acquire, her business, you can help her and be that catalyst for her, right? And maybe that's how you negotiate. Like, hey, you know what? I know you want to start franchise. I would love to help you with this as well. If we can work something where I can see the business going, proof of concept, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I can go out there and be an advocate for you to sell other, to sell more of these.
Hmm. Yeah, so really it's like excitement, education, and also like engagement in this sense. Like, yeah, I'm your guy. Like,
Mhm.
this is why I'm the better deal, or this is why I'm the better
Right, right,
person, the better buyer.
because you'll be her first franchise. Are you her first? Or will you be her first? Or does she have,
She has a couple. I think she has five.
oh, she has five? Okay. So, and and those are the ones that she owns, right? Or did she sold it to other, uh,
She's franchising out, yeah, to other franchisees some
or
elsewhere. Yeah,
and then did they pay $1 million for that? Do you know?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Right? It's like,
Hmm.
you know, because maybe she might have started in the beginning, right? And just kind of, and so it's an opportunity for you to maybe talk to those people as well. Do your due diligence. Like, hey,
Hmm.
how long have you had the franchise? It's just, it's like, people know a Chick-fil-A franchise makes money, right?
That's right.
So, and people are willing to pay whatever it is they paid to get there, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh, they
Hmm.
know it worked. Well, the same thing when you ask, the other franchisee, like, hey, what's been your experience? Is it profitable for you? Or, are you thinking of selling it? Who knows? Right?
Hmm.
That's part of, doing your due
Yeah,
diligence.
my own education. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Do your own education, do your own due diligence, and help her educate. And maybe, because of what she gets to offer, maybe paying 3x would be worth it. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
And maybe not. But if it doesn't, if you're not able to get it to where it works for you in terms of your buy box, then move on to another opportunity that can get you there.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
I know, there's lots of other businesses out there. It's just like real estate.
Hmm.
Lots of other properties out there that I can go and buy. If this property I'm looking at doesn't fit my criteria, like I know I can go and um, find another property that's going to fit my criteria.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
have that buy box, as you know, just in business, you have a business, next business you buy, these are the check mark that it needs to hit. If it doesn't hit
Hmm.
that, then I'll find another opportunity that can meet my buy box.
Yeah, I've heard Alex Ramosi say that recently, where he's like, every time there's an opportunity that walks by, it looks really good. You got to be really good at saying no. And
Mhm.
so, have you found that in true to be you? It's like there's all these things coming at you, like all these deals, and it's like it doesn't fit my buy box. I have to say no, even if it's a really good deal.
Right. Yeah. Like last week I had an opportunity you know, come by to me, and it was out in Laurel. And I had to say no because it didn't fit my criteria.
Hmm.
And then there's another opportunity that just came by yesterday. I'm looking into it because it may work for me, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, so
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
it because like you when you're a busy guy, you get lots of opportunities, and this is how it's a filter, right? You gotta be able to filter out, otherwise you'll be just spinning your wheels looking at deals that you'll be wasting your time. So
Hmm.
if you like it and it's like, okay, you know, it's got to fit into your buy box. And if not, move on to the next deal. And
Hmm.
then we go there. Because one of the questions too is like, how could I make it work and make it fit, right? And then,
Hmm. Hmm.
so you look at it again, how can I make this work? And if you negotiate and it doesn't get to where you need to be, and it's time to just bow out and move on, right?
hmm
So,
hmm
so once find her motivation, get her to, you paint that, get her to see what the future would be like, what it would do for her to sell this franchise to you, and then you work on the terms. And if you guys can come on the terms, great. If not, then move on and find another opportunity.
hmm hmm Yeah, which is hard, right? It's fear of missing out, or you're like, oh, this will never come by again. And I think that's a mindset I even have of like, oh, if I don't get this, nothing like this will come up again. It's like, well, that's not actually true. Like
Mm.
that's a fear mindset instead of like, I can make things happen.
Right, right. Yeah, and then you gotta have that abundance mindset because there's opportunities everywhere, right? Even now when they say that the real estate market is slow, interest rates are high, there's still opportunities to be had, right?
hmm
Like I always call it the 3Ds. I think I might have talked about it in our other shows, but in real estate, it's death, debt, and divorce. Those are like, the three things that will cause people to make a move. Right?
hmm
Just for example, this week, like the deal that I'm looking at right now, we had a seller call me because the seller's going through a divorce and
hmm
he wants out with a single income, cannot afford the mortgage. He wants out and bought the property just a couple of years ago. So there's not a whole lot of equity there,
hmm
and but he's very motivated. And this could be a thing where I go in, maybe pay him, $4,000 or $5,000, take over the property so he could move on to his next life. And
hmm
this property is worth like $380,000. He owes 350, but if I can just take over the mortgage payments and turn around, resell the property on a different, wrap the terms. This is kind of my thinking.
hmm
Just
hmm
wrap, just wrap it, and it would make a good house for an end buyer. So,
hmm hmm
but that's an example. 3Ds, death, debt, and divorce, and this was one of those. It's a divorce, and he wants out. The wife wants out, and they
hmm
want to just kind of walk away. They just don't want to have a foreclosure on the record. So,
hmm Yeah. Wow. Yeah. This was always opportunity, just looking for those things, looking for the right motivations, the right people, the right buy box, and see
right.
if it can fit. Okay.
Absolutely. So it's there, with your deal, go back. I mean, just talk to her, paint that picture, kind of get her excited about the possibility, and then, you know, help her remove that barrier from getting to where she wants to go.
hmm hmm
We can help her by negotiating the price, help educating her. If she's, it sounds like, obviously 5X is outside of the normal. So
hmm
you would come down to 2 to 3X. And if you can make those numbers work and fit your criteria based on those numbers, then you can move forward. If not,
hmm
move forward on finding another opportunity. So always have in mind that there will always be another opportunity if I don't pick this one up.
Yeah. Abundance, not fear. Okay.
Absolutely.
I got
Abundance.
to get out of that. That's a change for me.
Yeah. So I hope that helps kind of give you the
Yeah.
framework to just, kind of negotiating, right? These are the things, basically helping them get what they want. And that's a simple principle that I use. If you can figure that out, help them get what they want, I tell you, it will be amazing how many opportunities and businesses you could buy just using that concept. I mean, I've bought literally lots and lots of properties, helping the
hmm
seller give what they want. There's just one seller. I mean, I bought like 7 properties from a single seller by helping him do what he wanted. So
Well, good. Yeah. That's serious helpful. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Anything else you want to touch on? I know we're, coming up to. to our time here. So
No, we're good. Yeah, that was super helpful. Keto, I just gotta go and put into practice. So like I keep thinking like the when we first started the show, it's like, hey guys, just do something, just get started. So for me, this is more than enough. You just gotta go get started. And
right.
so same thing with people listening, it's like just go get started, try, fail, try again.
Yep. You just keep going. And the goal is the more you help other people get what they want, you will get what you want. That's what Zig Ziglar, how many years ago when I first started out in real estate sales, just use that principle and it has guided me in terms of negotiation. I mean, you don't have to get all hard on, when it comes to negotiating, right? Just kind of know what you want by having your own criteria and then helping the seller, you know, get to where they want to go. That's
Hmm.
pretty much the framework that I use.
Yeah. Well, good. That's helpful. I'll definitely do that.
Yeah. And I mean in other episodes we could talk about more like specific techniques and stuff like that. But I think just starting with that framework will definitely help people get started.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining our episode of Investing with Keto, and we'll see you guys later.
See you later.